Hey guys, let's talk about something. Breaking news. It was the other day. Usually I don't do breaking news, but it's important because it's all about transhumanism again, about possibly the mark, about technology in general, how it influences humanity and who are responsible for that. So, first of all, etymology. If you don't know, well, what you know is that there were different languages to different times, right? But maybe you don't know the exact follow-up or the order. So first of all, you would begin with Egypt, although obviously there were people before. But as far as it is important to us today, is Egypt, okay? And then besides Egypt and after Egypt were the Phoenicians. Okay, so the Egyptians had hieroglyphs, and the Phoenicians already had a sort of alphabet, okay, not with drawings so much as letters or symbols or words, but single symbols, okay, as we know it today. Then you have Hebrew language, Hebrew alphabet, which is grew out of the Phoenician one. There are some similarities, and I'll get into this very quickly. And then after Hebrew, there were the Greeks, right? Everyone knows Greek. Beautiful landscapes, lots of philosophers. And then there were the Romans, and they copied so much from the Greeks. And ever since then, it's called Latin, you probably know. Ever since then, all Europe was influenced by Latin letters, Latin language, and also the Anglo-Saxon people, like the Norse, you know what I'm saying? Like the people that were north from the Mediterranean Sea, where the Romans actually just invaded, but they didn't conquer everything like Scandinavia and everything. But still today they are using Latin letters. Isn't that strange? Also the English language uses the same Latin letters, and that's something to keep in mind, because it's usually considered that Latin language is a dead language, right? So you have that aspect of what I always talk about in secret societies, is that they do things hidden in plain sight. So Latin language is basically the language that is hidden in plain sight. Okay, we're talking, our sonics, for example, now is English, but when we write it in the visual world, we're using Latin letters. That's where they originate from. The English didn't come up with new letters, they actually use the Latin letters. Okay? And this is good to know, because also in medicine, in botany, in the Catholic Church, at the Catholic Church, they actually still use Latin language as the expressions, and it's called, or it's known or thought of as high status. You know, you're of a high status if you know all the Latin expressions of plants, you know. And this is something that people have to be aware of, that they are clearly wanting this to be like that, like the elite. If an elite has the power if they wanted to change language. Simple. They are kings, right? The king can just say, okay, from day on, from now, we're introducing a new language, a new Latin system, a new letter system. I'm saying Latin because it's all over the place, but new letter system, because we are our own country. We have nothing in common with the Romans. We are not Romans, we are, for example, English, so we have our new letter system, right? That's what you would think of. But no, in this world, everything goes back to Rome. Okay, all roads lead to Rome. And it just shows that they're holding on to those roots, and there are reasons for that. Okay? Because it's all coming out of Rome. Okay, Rome is still ruling this world. If people think, oh, it was 2,000 years ago and now we got all these countries, well, you have to also look into how Europe actually came to be what it is today. Okay, but I'm not gonna get into it. It's history. If you are interested, read about it, research. The thing what you take away from here is that Latin language is all over the place in so many languages, European languages, Spanish, Italian, English, German, French, you know, and then it goes over to America, South America, Latin America. It's actually called Latin America. So you see how this works, hidden in plain sight. Nobody actually talks Latin language, but everyone writes it, okay, using the Latin letters. And although the sonics, okay, what you have to understand about language, and it's obvious, there is a sonic aspect and there is a visual aspect. The visual is scripture, is symbols, is letters. A single letter is a simple symbol, okay. You can come up with new symbols for the existent sonics, okay. And what are sonics? Is the audio, the thing that we hear, that you hear now, is vowels, consonants, and all the sounds that you can make with your mouth. And there might be other sounds even that we can make with our mouths, such as, but we're not including this in the English language, for example. But there are tribes that are doing this in South Africa, for example. So this is how you think of language, and it's very important to understand this. And it's very important to question, why are they holding on to Latin language so much? Right? It's 2,000 years ago that we get told, or let's say 1,500 years, we get told by history that then the Roman Empire, the great Roman Empire, was gone, right? And all those little countries came out of it. Well, what about that theory? They just went underground, okay, so that they could keep on ruling from underneath, hidden in plain sight, while the people believe in the democracies in their countries, and, you know, patriotism. Also, soccer or any sport is always inducing this kind of instinctive behavior by men more than women, is that they then feel like they identify themselves with a country through that, right? They wouldn't even identify themselves with some politicians anymore, because maybe, yeah, they don't see them as charismatic or something, but through the sport and soccer stuff, or yeah, basically most of it is sports events, they would then become patriotic in a different way, but still patriotic, because they support their country and they believe, okay, I am from this country, you are from that country, and they identify themselves with that. So, and there is pride building up, you know, oh, we won the World Cup 4 times, or we won the World Cup 2 times, you know, and then they would already run these train tracks. Okay. Well, to stay biblical, Jesus says, do not sign yourself up to the earthly kingdoms. There is a kingdom in heaven, and you believe in God, so you believe in the kingdom in heaven and not the kingdoms on earth. So you wouldn't even patriotic. You wouldn't even be patriotic in any way. You would not identify yourself with any country on earth, even though you're living in one. You're not identifying yourself with their country, and this is something that the leaders of these countries want to avoid at all costs. Okay, so they always want to keep people engaged through sports, through voting, through stories in the media. So they actually believe in this construct country, which is actually a very abstract construct if you think about. Right? What is a country actually? You know, there are some people that come together, and then these people decide for a whole territory, like a land that has borders, that creates borders, that claims to own this land, you know. So believing in God means to be saved from this, to not fall into this sort of trap to believe in these countries. And so then you understand, you don't follow these people that lead these countries, you don't idolize them, because you believe in God and you trust God, and you don't even think that some politician will save the day, you know, or make the world better. You know, God already made it good. So who are you to say, oh, we're gonna make it better? Life in general, you know. But these leaders are all about that. You know, the leaders, they need that advertisement, you know. They need that advertisement. Make it great again. You know, now is the time that we can rise up again to previous heights. I'm gonna make it all better. You know, they need this kind of advertising so that the people, it's a salesmanship, so that the people believe in them. Okay, this is also something you have to understand. So let's get into it. Long talk, long intro. The Tao or Ta in Phoenician language stands for, or is written in the visual world, like the sonic is T. We all know that, T, but you can write it very differently. You could come up with your own symbol, but in the Phoenician language it was the symbol that we know as X, okay? And it's a cross in the visual world. It's a turned, slightly tilted cross, if you want. The multiply sign, okay? So that is Tav in the Phoenician language, and it actually means mark, okay? Because in the early days, how they actually came up with these symbols is to make them as close as possible how can I put this? They are rooted in things actually. You know, letters. They would, for example, the Egyptians, they would draw whole pictures of a bird, for example, to say, okay, that means bird. But of course, it was a little too much. So to save space and to be quicker, the symbols got reduced down to just one simple symbol. Okay, So then one simple symbol can stand for a whole word, such as bird. Or in this case, the T, the tav, as it was spoken tav in full length, but it stood for the consonant, the T, was considered as mark. Okay, standing for mark. Why? Because maybe you would mark your territory with a stick, right? And the X symbolism marks something, right? You mark it with an X. That's what we sometimes do even today. You know, there is a square and you have to put your mark in, like multiple choice, you know, or for tests or other purposes. So we write an X and it's like a mark that we do. Okay, there are thousands of other ways that you could mark things, but that's where it comes from. So then maybe you know about Hebrew language since you're a Christian and you know the Bible. Maybe you got into Hebrew a little bit to understand deeper things about the Bible. There is also the last letter in the alphabet is known as tav. It's also spoken tav, but it has a different visual symbol, because the Hebrews were their own folk. They had nothing to do with the Phoenicians, yet obviously languages develop out of each other in ways. But you can always come and say, okay, I'm gonna use maybe the same sonics but different symbols, because now we're creating a new tribe, a new country, a new state or whatever, you know, that wants to also be sort of private in a way, you know, because a new language and new symbols, they create a sort of privacy. Okay. So in the Phoenician alphabet, the T, or the written form, is X, that we know as X today, is a cross, is the last letter, as well as in the Hebrew language the T is the last letter, and it also means mark in the Hebrew language. Okay, so when you see the X, the cross, the tilted cross, now we call it X, but back in the day the sonic of that letter was T. Okay, T, and it meant mark. So why am I telling you all this? Because it was announced lately that Twitter was rebranded by Elon Musk into X, the symbol, simple symbol, the tilted cross, that in Phoenician language means T, or stood for T, T. Okay, and that was mark. Okay. Elon Musk's rebranding of Twitter as X began at the tail. Doesn't matter. The social platform now sports a new X logo on its mobile. The big rebranding explained. And again, they will try to explain it. They will have a different spin to the story, right? Or they create a story around this. They would say, they wouldn't even talk about the truth, where the symbol of the letter is rooted in, which is Phoenician. They would say, oh, Elon Musk just liked it so much when he was a child, liked that symbol, and he drew it all over his room, you know, or whatever, you know. They would have a different spin to this, and would create this whole story, and the people would fall for it. They would just maybe laugh or think, okay, that's how it came to be, because Elon Musk loved that symbol so much, so that's why he used it. There is no deeper meaning to this, no, not at all. It's all just superficial, right? That's how people think in this world. They just read these articles and they yes it off, they nod it off, you know, right, true. They don't think further, they don't question anything, they don't have knowledge, they don't research for knowledge, they don't seek a certain knowledge behind symbols and letters. But once you know about that, you could actually understand that there is more meaning to that than just a simple tilted cross. And not only did he rebrand Twitter into X, but his space company is called SpaceX, okay, and it's run by X Corp. So if you want to tell me X has no meaning to this guy or to the elite in general, then you have to have a lot of good arguments, because I don't see it, and we'll get deeper into it. Because there was another breaking news. The Economic Times reported mobile phones in remote areas to connect to SpaceX's Starlink V2 internet soon. And the synopsis of this article was: SpaceX's Starlink V2 will connect to remote area mobile phones by next year. The mobile phones will connect to satellites and provide 1 to 4 megabits per second across the coverage areas. And the whole goal of this, we'll see soon. Another source said mobile phones in remote areas will be connected with SpaceX satellites by next year. SpaceX founder Elon Musk and CEO of T-Mobile, Mike Sievert, have made the big announcement. Both companies will be creating a new network to provide the service. Starlink satellites will broadcast it using a mid-band spectrum from T-Mobile throughout the nation. T-Mobile said the service would provide coverage wherever you can see the sky. So it's funny. What I forgot now to say is the mark is interesting for Christians because mark is mentioned in Revelation, and it's about the mark of the beast, and it's linked to the number 666. Okay? That these people constantly throw into cameras, constantly show on magazine covers and whatnot, maybe even license plates, you know, from rich elite people. I have seen some that carry that number, or the presidential car is called the Beast, okay, that Cadillac. So what it says is that there will be a time, it's a prophecy, that there will be a time where people have to take a mark either on their forehead or on their wrists, on their hand. Without that, they cannot buy or sell. Okay, and we're seeing this rise through technology, because they made it already so hard to actually personally create a bank account. Simple as that. They would always now try to lead you to use your phone, use these apps to create bank accounts, to do online banking, to care for all things online through apps, through your phone, that you can only access through your phone. Okay? And your phone has all the data by now. They have all the data about your credit cards. The phone has all the data about your logins, whatever. And whatever you need to navigate through life is saved on your phone by now. And people, they live this way, right? They do not question anything. And me, myself included, not that I not question anything, but for a certain, or to a certain degree, you have to live within the walls of this world, to survive and to live, right? But it doesn't mean that you actually worship it, or it doesn't mean you can't have a different opinion on that just because you're using it. It's important that the people understand what's going on and why this is on the rise and what they are trying to do actually. And it is that one day you can only go with your phone to the supermarket and buy something. That will be the first step. You have a phone, everything is safe there. You need a phone, just like you were using money before. You actually will use your phone to pay, and it's already coming. It's already been established in the US, and it's already coming to Europe, that people pay with their phone or even with their watches, Apple watches. They just hold it to the casa, and that's how they pay it. And they say, okay, it's easier, it's so fast, it's all fun and games, until they say, well, we developed something that could place the phone, or at least parts of the phone, into your body, and you don't even have to carry a phone with you anymore for these things. It will be inside your body, inside your wrist, for example, and then you just hold your wrist onto the casa and you pay, or you hold your wrist onto the door of your workplace and you get in, or you hold your wrist onto the door of your car and you get in and you can drive. And this is what they want for the people. And while it might seem like cyber future stuff that everybody embraces, it's like you gotta think further. You have to think about, how does this enslave actually people to the electronics, to the technology, to the ones that actually control this technology? Because people, it's not like nobody owns these things, owns where all the data goes. Nobody owns this, like the public owns this. You're naive if you think like this. Okay, these things are owned by the ones that create and control this world, and you have to understand this if you're new to this. And it's funny that it's called T-Mobile, because before I told you the consonant T, the sonic, was written in Phoenician language as a tilted cross, which is now what we call X. Okay, so there's already a link again between space X and T-Mobile. Okay, so there are connections that you have to be aware of, and it's all going back to ancient civilizations that worship gods and that were creating these huge empires, or at least always had that drive to do so. It was always destroyed. Even think about the Roman Empire at the time when it was still public. It was just across the Mediterranean Sea, it just covered parts of the Mediterranean Sea, and that's basically it. But right now we're facing a worldwide empire. Are you even aware of that? Where all of America is involved, all of Europe, parts of Africa, parts of Asia, okay, and that is on the rise. And you have to understand that. Elon Musk said that Starlink V2 will launch next year and eliminate dead zones worldwide by transmitting directly to mobiles. The connectivity will be 2 to 4 megabits for one zone. He tweeted it would be great for voice calls and text, but not for high bandwidth. So again, eliminating dead zones. It's all about lighting up the whole surface of the earth. Not lighting it up, but actually controlling and surveilling it. Surveillance comes to mind. State of surveillance. All the dead zones. You can't even escape to a dead zone anymore, if you know one, for example, because it will all be covered by the Starlink. Okay. But you have to mention, or I have to mention, the Starlink only works if there is a clear sky. I mean, there can be maybe clouds between, but such as thick woods, for example, or if you are inside a room, it doesn't work. So there are still possibilities to create dead zones artificially if you really, really need one. I mean, I don't know what you're doing, but I mean, if you're not a criminal, it's not so important that they try to eliminate dead zones, but you have to be aware of the fact why they are doing this, because they want to surveil and control the whole surface of the earth into all corners, first of all, and have internet there. And people think, oh, that's a cool thing, right? So now I can call my grandmother from wherever, and they think sometimes, I think, that Elon Musk is doing this for these reasons, right? For these simple day-to-day conversations, because he cares so much about people reaching their loved ones. You have to think further than that, okay? It's not just that. It's not so superficial. They have other plans. These are elite people, rich people that control this world, and they know it. They are not unaware of that or oblivious, okay? They have other plans. And you only understand these plans if you put yourself into the shoes of a king or something. You really have to get out of your own ego in a way and realize what these people could have planned, okay? What are their goals? What are their desires? It's power, it's control, it's reach also, because the reach that started with TV, you know, and radio waves in general. Radio was the first thing, then TV, and now the internet. It's the reach that influences people across the whole world, okay? And through that reach, they can just push any agenda out there. They can put lies out there, and the people will believe it because of that reach, okay? Or at least be influenced by it. And this is how it all works, okay? There is one idea, for example, and it is being broadcasted by the help of this technology. And this is how it works. You have a phone and it goes directly the signal to one of these Starlink satellites, and then it goes to it summons, or it's collected in a station on Earth. So again, somebody controls these stations. You know, it's not just your signal goes into the air and it doesn't go anywhere and no one has access to the data. No, they have access, okay, because they collect the data and they want that. Okay, so if you think I have privacy because I protected myself with some software that doesn't share data or something, or I'm protected by the law that they create against data, like, it's all a show, because they create the same software, okay? So they have access to that. If you think, for example, viruses, you know, on a laptop, if you ever had one, and then you protect yourself with some software, it's the software that comes from the same people, okay? So you gotta think that what they actually do is protect the people from viruses, maybe they come from people like you and me. If I create a virus, they don't want that, obviously. But it doesn't change that the ones who created the whole thing in the first place, such as Microsoft, for example, they created Microsoft. Why would they not have viruses in place that they created, but only they want the control over them, okay? And then they create protection systems so that the people believe, again, that they are covered, they are safe, they are protected, while all the data is being owned by the same people. Okay, and it's very important to understand this. These are not some companies that are independent from each other, that work like that. And because why would Microsoft allow this even to happen? That there could be a private organization that creates some protection system, and it protects people from viruses. That they themselves have also created, because it's like create a disease and sell the cure. It works according to this principle. And then you gotta wonder who actually allowed this to happen. Now I'm going back to Starlink. Who allowed that one rich man, was able to shoot hundreds by now, I think. I don't know how many they are, but it's at least 100 satellites into the sky, and they are hovering across the whole Earth. Like, is there no country that actually says, wait a minute, we don't want that hovering above our country? Like, where is the agreement? Why are all countries working together? And by now you should be suspicious. What is actually going on in this world? Like, how can these satellites hover above China? Isn't China saying, okay, we have our own technology, maybe we have our own rich guys that can do the same thing? No, they are all embracing that. Nothing is being done. Somehow there is an agreement, but the public doesn't know about it. All the public knows is that these things are hovering above us in the night sky, and nobody actually said yes to this. None of us, of the masses, of the people. I wasn't asked, you weren't asked. Some rich guy just decided that. Okay, how can that happen? And how, even if you think, okay, he's rich, he has the money, he has the people working for him, he's linked with politicians. It's very simple for rich people to just do whatever they want in this world, right? People have to also be aware. But then again, why are all the other countries on board? Just ask yourself these questions and you're getting to the truth closer. And by 2024, text messaging will be available through that. Then 2022, voice and data. And by 2025, it's IoT. And if you don't know what's IoT, I'm gonna explain to you, because that's the most important thing about this. Text messaging, yeah. Data, we all know, okay, they collect data. But what is IoT? The Internet of Things, IoT, describes the network of physical objects, things, that are embedded with sensors, software and other technologies for the purpose of connecting and exchanging data with other devices and systems over the Internet. These devices range from ordinary household objects to sophisticated industrial tools. With more than 7 billion connected IoT devices today, experts are expecting the number to grow to 10 billion by 2020. That's what already passed. And 22 billion by 25. Okay, 22 million. A billion, actually. So, it's about collecting data of electronic devices. And let's see more details what that is. Why is Internet of Things, IoT, so important? Over the past few years, IoT has become one of the most important technologies of the 21st century. Now that we can connect everyday objects, such as kitchen appliances, cars, thermostats, baby monitors, very important, to the Internet via embedded devices, seamless communication is possible between people, processes and things. By means of low-cost computing, the cloud, big data analytics, and mobile technologies, physical things can share and collect data with minimal human intervention. Oh, that's great. In this hyper-connected world, digital systems can record, monitor, there are these words, and adjust each interaction between connected things. The physical world meets the digital world, and they cooperate. Mixing iron with clay. So there are these words, record, monitor. So again, pay attention. It's about surveillance. And if people again think that their data is safe because there are laws in place, ask yourself who runs these laws. It's the elite. And who runs these companies? The elite. That collect data, the elite. The rich. So it's all devices like TV, cars, or any sort of surveillance camera that you actually put yourself up, in your room or whatever, or to cover your garage. All these things are being connected to the Starlink one day. Okay. And there will be a huge data flow incoming, okay? And this is the data they use for certain reasons, for certain things. I cannot tell you exactly what they do with that data, but for sure, first of all, what they always tell us is to improve their technology. Which, for the ones that love this technology, it's a good thing. They think, oh, these things are even being improved, right? Well, on the other hand, other people might see it as, why would we even need those things in the first place, and then improving them on top of that is maybe the wrong direction, But the people who love this stuff, they love these facts, and they just stop there. Their minds just stop there. They don't think any further. What else could the people in power do with this data? Just say you have a difference of opinion, or they just don't like you for whatever reasons. You don't even have to be a criminal. They can just use all that data to just close you in your home, or to just turn everything off, and you can't enter your home, or you can't do anything in your home, or you're sitting in your automatic car and they just steer that car into the ocean or onto a tree. Like, how can people trust these things? But again, it's considered as high society lifestyle. Owning a Tesla is hyped, is hip, and the ones who can afford these cars, they pride themselves with this stuff. Okay, there are some doctors, they pride themselves with their achievements in the world. Then they buy and consume these products that the even richer ones hand them, and then they feel like they are someone in this world. Okay, while they are just being used by the ones that are even richer and that actually control this world, that are handing them all the products, that are selling them all this stuff. Because who needs all this stuff? Who needs a TV that is connected to the internet? Can't you just watch TV? Like, it's the same with phones. Why would you need a phone to be connected to the internet if you just want to call someone? Why does it have to be all one device? And then again, they say it's for the betterment of society, to make everything easier and to make processes more fluent, And for some reasons, I support actually that view in certain cases when it comes to bureaucracy. And in Germany, anyone who ever was in Germany or has lived there knows that bureaucracy in Germany is like outdated. It's very hard to navigate actually. And on the one hand, I'm thinking actually that they make this on purpose so the people are slowly driven towards using these apps and the phones, because this is the type of technology that makes everything easier, right? So first they make it hard, and so the people get tired and now do this, do that. Why is there no one that makes these things more easier, like the processes? And there would be solutions for sure, but they just don't do that because now they have a thing that makes everything easier, so the people need to be sold onto that. And how are they being sold? Well, first of all, it was hard all the time, so now there comes something that saves people time, saves people nerves, and they just sign up to it without thinking, and without actually thinking, might there not be solutions actually to keep the old system or the old things of work? Might there not be solutions how to regulate all these processes without using a phone, where actually human interaction is still prominent? But no, they just embrace the technology that erases all the human interaction, and then on top sends and collects all the data that is then supervised by the rich and the elite that own all these platforms, own all the technology, all the satellites. And then what is industrial IoT? Well, we don't have to get too much into this, I'm not going to read it, but the main thing that stands out here and is very important to consider also is smart cities here. Smart power grids, smart cities, connected logistics, smart digital supply chains. So this is all about creating smart cities, and this will help them create smarter cities. They call it smart, so the people think it's all smart, They surround themselves with these things then: smart home, smart house, smart car, smart phone, and they think they're super smart because they got told that this is what is being smart, right? And people, they pride themselves with being smart, so they don't think further, and they just think, okay, I own all these things, I'm super smart, and it's a trap. Smart cities is something that they are trying to achieve here. In the future, it's all about guiding people like cattle. Like the elite is are the cowboys, and the masses is the cattle, and there is a fenced area, and the elite needs to guide the masses, the cattle, into that fenced area, which are smart cities, because that's their plan. And why is it a plan? Because it means complete control and surveillance over all the processes, over every single interaction that is happening in this city, whether that's deals, like consumption in shops, in supermarkets, or that is how many people have entered the train at this and that time. They surveil everything through cameras, so they control everything, and they would always reason that with making everything better and more safer, I don't know if you said it, making everything safer. Yeah, these are the arguments that they bring to get people hooked on this and on board. It's all salesmanship, okay? The people didn't even know that they need this technology. They just created it, and then they said, well, you need it actually, and we tell you why you need it. And then the people think to themselves, oh, maybe it doesn't hurt, right? Let's just get a phone, let's see what it is all about, and then they're hooked. Let's just get the TV. Back in the day there were only few people that had a TV, but it creates also a sort of fascination around this technology that then induces other people to pay or to spend their hard-earned money on all that technology that in turn is telling them lies, is influencing them, is telling them how to live, is telling them who to believe in, what opinion to have, is influencing them in so many sick ways. Actually, if you think about the music industry, music videos where there are very nasty, dark stuff happening, and people, they do not care anymore. They just watch these things and they do not think anything, and then their kids turn out like very dark spirits. They wear dark clothes, they paint their nails like men painting their nails. They would go to dark things, do dark things in general, and then they wonder, hey, what happened with my boy or with my son, with my daughter. It's not your fault if you are a parent and you feel now related if you listen, but in some way it's the parents that allowed this technology to be inside their homes, and this allowed other people that are very rich and influential, that want influence and control over the masses. It's an interest of them. Like, this allowed them to come in through the back door, so to say. And there's a nice verse also in the Bible about this, where Jesus says, only the thief comes through the back door, right? The one you should trust that comes through the front door. Okay, that's your friend. Anyone who comes through the back door, you can't trust, and it's most likely a thief. Okay, and in general, you should trust no man but God, okay, in heaven. But it's just like this, what I see is that the TV stands for this. It's like the back door in people's homes, and who has access to that is the people who create the shows, create the reports, the breaking news, the agendas that are being mainstreamed, broadcasted. Okay, people have to understand. How is IoT changing the world? Take a look at connected cars, and this is again how they sell people these ideas, and the necessity of this technology. Like, how can it be a good thing? Why should you buy into it? How is it making life better? IoT is reinventing the automobile by enabling connected cars. With IoT, car owners can operate their cars remotely by, for example, preheating the car before the driver gets in it, or by remotely summoning a car by phone. Given IoT's ability to enable device-to-device communication, cars will even be able to book their own service appointments when warranted. So again, preheating the car, I mean, that's literally first world problems right there, like luxury problems. And you can already tell from that what is the audience that they are trying to target here. It's the ones that are living in this wealthy bubble where they are being handed products by the richer, while they themselves pride themselves with owning all this materialism, right? They pride themselves with owning a Tesla. They pride themselves with owning this certain TV that is connected to the internet, and you can watch Netflix and whatever, They pride themselves with these things, and these are the people that are driving this new world order forward. Okay, so they need this group of people to be on board, because in general, that's how they keep this whole system running, is keeping the people at a certain wealth that gives them a certain wealth, but on the other hand takes money out of their pockets through selling them these products by the ones that are even richer and that actually control this world, such as the car producers, car companies, the TV producer, and all the producers that sell us the technology. Okay, and these people are actually the ones that run this world It's not the politicians, okay? The politicians just decide political things, and the people believe in that, okay? But the ones who influence these people and who actually meet with these people together, and they work together hand in hand, these are the owners of these big companies, big influential companies, big and heavy money wise, heavy companies. Okay. The connected car allows car manufacturers or dealers to turn the car ownership model on its head. Previously, manufacturers have had an arm's length relationship with individual buyers, or none at all. Well, I didn't know we had to have a relationship here, love relationship, I don't know. Essentially, the manufacturer's relationship with the car ended once it was sent to the dealer. Yeah, isn't that okay? With connected cars, automobile makers or dealers can have a continuous relationship with their customers. Instead of selling cars, they can charge drivers usage fees. Oh, that's great. Again, offering a transportation as a service using autonomous cars. IoT allows manufacturers to upgrade their cars continuously with new software. Again, they are being programmed to always update their phones. This is mental program, okay? Sometimes these updates don't do anything. They are just there to program the people to constantly update, okay? And then it's a habit, and then they are living these habits where they think, okay, I also need to update my car, I always need to be up to date, I always need to get the newest thing, and then they spend a lot of money on these things that, again, on the other side, makes the elite have control and become richer and richer. To upgrade their cars continuously with new software, a sea change difference from the traditional model of car ownership in which vehicles immediately depreciate in performance and value. Well, the value of a car will still depreciate, will still decrease, no matter if you keep a nice relationship with your customer. I mean, what is that even? Can't I just buy something and that's it, goodbye? I mean, why are you holding on to this relationship? There can be no good reason, okay? Like, who says that I want that? Is there anyone out there? I mean, it's a good thing to be kind to people that sell you things, but most of the time what happens is you buy something and that's it. You're done, Why would you keep track? Like, hey guy from the Benz local Benz company or whatever, or whoever sold your car, why would you have a relationship? I mean, it's already so stupid if you think about it. But the people that are living these high society lives, they think it's a cool thing, I guess. So they feel like they are together and appreciated. But again, it's all a show, because what they want is your money. What they want is you're actually, as it says, they can then take payment fees or something on the go. Like, the purchase didn't end by just buying the car. They can actually ask for fees later on, right? Maybe you're using some gadgets that are linked to the internet or whatever that is inside your car, or whatever they're gonna do, I don't know. But it's sure that they can, like, call you up while you're driving or something, and you're just like, hey, I'm on the road, what's happening, what's going on? And he's just saying, yeah, please pay this and that, because we just charged you or something, People, why? Who needs this, people are so sick, and they are so hooked on this idea to run into the future and advanced world with all the cyber stuff, and I don't think they see the truth anymore. That's what I'm thinking, and their wealth is blinding them, you know. They're too wealthy. They can't. They are so prideful of all their achievements, and they feel socially accepted when they own all this. They can't even see what the people that are richer than them actually do with them, how they treat them, how they are like friendly at the front, you know. They're gonna smile at you, they're gonna keep a nice relationship continuously, you know, they're gonna have people in place that are paid to smile, and probably some robots in the very, very future. You don't even talk to people anymore, right? And they're just gonna be all nice, and you're gonna live in this love utopia while the rich elite controls everything and owns everything, and you don't even live anymore. You're actually dead material to them, even if you're living, but spiritually dead. Okay, imprisoned with all this technology that they sold you as a good idea to have, also sold you as not just a good idea, but as an achievement. Okay, and then the people pride themselves with. And if then somebody comes like me or other people, many other people, that says, wait a minute, this technology is enslaving you, it's not good actually, they have other interests, be aware, and all that stuff that I'm saying here, they will not hear that, they will not see that. They will be even trying to protect themselves, trying to defend themselves, because they're emotionally linked to all this materialism that is being handed to them because of that pride, because it's being sold as an achievement. And it's not just an achievement, actually it entertains them, it entertains their minds, and it keeps them living in this dream world. You know, if you think about it, 500 years ago, cars were coaches, the coaches of the rich, the elite. They were living, they had the coaches, they had the horses, the horsepower, you know. They were living in big houses, castles, and they were living that fairy tale dream life that all the poor was dreaming about, you know, being a prince, being a king, living in a castle, in a big bed, and, you know, never having any financial sorrows or all that comes with it. You know, all the movies that are that you've probably seen by Disney, or, you know, they always promote this idea, this fairy tale life that the elite is promoting also, and living in wealth, and now, by now, you have like people like you and me that have coaches, cars, you know, that have horsepower, that are living in their dream worlds, in the castles that they built themselves, with the coaches in the front, and cameras protecting them like they had soldiers, like they had so much to protect, you know, so much wealth. Like, what is it you're actually protecting? I mean, people, please wake up. That's all I can say. So, again, Starlink appears to be prepping a global roaming service, and it doesn't just stay there, you know. It's people just think about the technology, global roaming service. No, it's about connecting all the people, connecting them, because what their goal is a one world order, and now you can understand it. Why it's not just a myth, but it's on the rise through the technology. Let's get more into the X symbolism to round this off. you probably know the song X Gon Give It To You, and in that song there is a line that is called I'm a wolf in sheep's clothing. I almost said it wrong. So again, a biblical reference that is actually very important and it has a very deep meaning. A wolf in sheep's clothing is someone that disguises himself as a sheep when in fact he is a wolf, and he has other ideas, such as what I explained before. Like they would, like Elon Musk, he comes as a savior. You know, he's gonna save the people. He's gonna give free internet to the people. When in fact their goal is not so that you can call your grandmother anywhere and have 24/7 connection. They have interests that are world leading. Okay, these are not interests that the main people have. I don't understand why people don't understand this. It's very simple. But sometimes I believe that the people just stay within their bubble. They never think further. They can't put themselves into the shoes of these people. They would just think from their own perspective, where they think, oh, it's a cool, it makes my life easier. I can just create WhatsApp groups and then invite 1,000 people in an instant to have a birthday party. You know what I'm saying? This is how far they think, and they think this technology is just there for this purpose, for these purposes, to connect socially, you know. But this is superficial. This is a distraction even of the main purpose of this thing, okay? And it is influence and control that comes through the elite, okay? I can't highlight this enough. And then the X symbolism also has its part in Egypt. But first of all, there's an occultist, or was an occultist, that is called Aleister Crowley, and I refer to him also sometimes. If you want to know more about him, watch my other videos or research. The main point here is that he wrote a book that is called Magic in Theory and Practice, and it has to do with the Baphomet. And then he is doing this position with his arms, creating an X symbol, okay? And he's holding these scepters, or whatever it is, Egyptian scepters, in his hands, and it all goes back to ancient Egypt. And you can see here there's a temple, and in front of that there are stone masoned, pay attention to the word, stone masoned statues that are doing the same shape, okay, same pose with their arms, and it looks like they are protecting something. And again, they are not actually protecting something. They are spiritually protecting something, you know. It's a show, it's a symbol. Whatever is inside that temple, they are protecting. Yes, you can walk through and there will not come a hand from the stone statue to keep you away from that. You can still walk right into it, but it's a show, it's a demonstration. What is spiritually inside this temple is being protected, okay, through that pose. That's how it looks like to me. I don't know if that's true, but that's the most reasonable thing that I can come up with here. And if you know anything about Egyptian worship and what is happening in the pyramids, or what in general, what they believed in, like for example, they took the brains out of a dead corpse because they believed in some afterlife, and that they would need these hollowed out bodies to be living the same kind of life, or even a better life in the afterlife. Okay, it's sick things that they believed in, and Well, my idea is that they believe in these things because they are elite and they have so much wealth, and their wealth and their power on earth is making them corrupt and turn these ways. Okay, because they have so much power in this world, they think they are gods. They have so much influence, they can just make hundreds of people work for them. Okay, they themselves believe, and this is where all the beliefs and the ceremonies, the rituals and the sick beliefs originate from these people. And then they are rolling down sort of on that pyramid, where people in lower ranks actually start to believe the same bullshit. Okay, because the rich elite, they are reasoning all their power with all the rituals that they are doing, where they sacrifice stuff, and they believe in all this. They think this is what gives them all the power, and whenever they don't do it, then they lose their power, and it creates this, this sick belief in a way. And this is then promoted across the nation, because the people on top are practicing this, and because there's this pyramid shape where there's one leader at the top, and at the bottom you have all the other people that were born in that nation and that work normal jobs, right? And they then come to believe the same things, maybe because the rich is believing that and promoting and practicing that. And the people never stop, they never reflect, they never question, they never think for themselves, they never use their minds. Their minds are just being used, physically and spiritually. Like they are being used to build the pyramids, first of all, and then they are being used to follow these leaders and idolize them and adopt the same ways, such as these rituals and everything. And again, in this book, he is describing some of these rituals, and this has also, the guy was a Freemason. So again, it's all masonry if you think about it. The pyramids, the statues, the big cathedrals, it's all masonry. And the brotherhood that's behind this is called Freemasonry. Okay, it's running the show, it's running all the countries, it's running most of the institutions, or at least working together with them. And then you can understand how, if you understand something about Freemasonry, is that they took principles from the actual masonry, the physical labor, and made it into a spiritual practice. And they believe in that. Okay? It's just as sick as what the Egyptians believed in. Okay? They do not believe in God, in the Father in heaven being the creator. They believe that they are themselves, they can become the creators of this world. And yes, they create this world in the realms that they have power over other people. Okay? Because what we have to see is, what we have to also say is, if the people wouldn't idolize these people, if the people would not give them any money, wouldn't buy these products, and they kept all the money for themselves, and they would come together in communities, local communities, and they would give a damn about these world leaders, in an instant they would lose all their power. In an instant they can try whatever they want through the TV, nobody's listening. Okay? But we live in a world where it's the other way around, where they can just say anything on TV and the people listen and they believe and they think these people are going to save me, these people say the truth, these people are the ones we should idolize and look up to and follow and copy these ways that they have. Like, we also need to become rich because these people are rich and they are so like publicly always portrayed as being the loved ones and the smartest and the most also the sane ones, you gotta say, or the good ones, And there is a good verse also in the Bible which says, "Woe to those who call evil good and good evil." And we live in a world where the people don't see the evil anymore. They would call it good. They would call this technology good. They don't see that it's coming from an evil source that has evil interests that are not for the people but very selfish. World-leading selfish. Okay? And it has influence. That's why that's why I don't tell people to not care about these people, but to care in a different way, to start caring about these people in a different way, to stop idolizing these people. And you should not care about what they're doing. You should actually expose them, okay, for what they are doing, and get people on board and tell them what they are doing, what they are trying to achieve, what are their interests. Bring light to that. Bring light into the darkness. The people, they live in darkness, and the rich is living off of that. They keep them that way. They just hand them a little bit of light, All the things that you can learn in university, in school, they give you a little bit of information. But it's mixed with a lot of lies. And it's not just, sometimes people have the notion, well, it just happens that humanity as a whole, they don't know all the truth, which is also true. But then they think that if there is a lie in the mandatory school, that it's just that the people have no responsibility for this, the people in power, I mean. Like, as if they would know that it was a lie, and they would just live accordingly, like a theory in physics, until it's being debunked. Because I'm sure there are lies that they know that they are conscious of being a lie, and that they promote as propaganda and an agenda, okay, for the people to believe in, to lead them astray, to ward them off in a way, to keep them asleep, so they can keep power. Not the people, but the elite can keep the power. And it's so logic, it's common thinking, it's common sense that people who have power, they don't want to go back to not having power. Okay, people that are wealthy, they don't want to go back to being not so wealthy. Okay, if people have reached a certain level of wealth, it's whenever they fear losing that, they become very corrupted and evil to stay there, right? If they own a villa in certain areas, right? And they own cars, and that's what got them beautiful women, they don't want to give this up. So they would look for very evil ways to keep up that life and that image that is being portrayed to the public then, and to friends, maybe even, whatever they call friends, but to their circles, within their brotherhoods. So it's common sense, and people need to be aware and wake up. And the X Factor is also a show on TV, and that other show that is called in America or in the UK, it's called Beyond Belief, Truth or Fiction, I think, or what was it? But anyway, the point is that show is being called in Germany is being called X Factor, which is the same as X Factor, but it's a different show. Okay, it's just the same name. And again, that's a jury. And then you have the album cover by Ed Sheeran, which is an X. And people think, yeah, it's all about maths because Ed Sheeran loves maths so much. No. He definitely is part of the Brotherhood. Who knows what's going on? And he knows what the symbol stands for, and you gotta also think, where do these symbols actually come from? When we add numbers, when we multiply numbers, when we subtract numbers, divide numbers, these symbols were chosen, okay? And they stand for something. And even if that symbol in maths, the tilted cross, is not linked to the mark in general, still there might be something behind that we don't get to know, and only members of the Brotherhood know why these symbols are being used and what it refers to, whom it refers to. Maybe it refers to someone that they worship, such as Aristotle, or there are all kinds of theories that we don't necessarily, or ideas or possibilities that we don't necessarily, that we aren't necessarily able to endeavor even, because we lack the information. We are not part of the Brotherhood. So in order to know these things, you would have to be part of the Brotherhood. But again, it's not important to know the exact meaning, it's just important to see the patterns and to realize something is going on. And the symbols are reoccurring and it's being repeated, and you have to see in which context they are appearing as well. As I showed you before, where there is the line, first of all you have the title of the song, X gon' give it to you, and then you have the line in the middle of the song saying, I am a wolf in sheep's clothing. Okay, so you got the context already. So X gon' give it to you. Who is X? Is it a person? Is it what is he referring to? Is he referring to his ex-girlfriend? I mean, I don't think so. Then soccer players, athletes, they like to use that also a lot, doing the X arm symbolism that we know now is coming from Egypt and is linked to the occultist Aleister Crowley as well. And they do this during goal celebrations, and they flash these symbols into the cameras, and it's the moment where the people are the most euphoric, right? Somebody just scored a goal, the people are cheering up, are in euphoria, and these are the moments that they use to put these symbols into people's consciousness. Okay, not so much because the symbol itself is like stirring havoc in people's lives. No, it's more of them demonstrating who they are part of, what they are worshipping, and what they believe in spiritually. Okay, and again, he's also closing his one eye. Another pose where he does the crossed arms and he's sticking out his tongue or mocking tongue. And another pose, just to make sure you also know and understand that it's all linked to the pyramid and to Egypt. He's making the triangle, pyramid, triangle, and again closing his one eye. And other soccer players do it also. He's not the only guy, referring to the pyramid, the triangle. No, these people, they don't refer to the triangle, they just love to the pyramids, to Egypt. They just love triangles, geometry, very fond of geometry. That's what it means, right? People wouldn't think anything about this. No, actually, he's doing the diamond shape pull-ups or push-ups. There are types of push-ups that you can do, that where you need to do this triangle, and actually it could already be referring to whatever is spiritually being implemented here in society. So then they go on YouTube and they tell the people, look, there are new push-ups, ways of push-ups, and you just need to do that triangle on the floor, and then you do that push-up to that triangle that you're shaping with your hands like this. And this is a way of also mocking the people. The people don't know what's going on, and they would use these techniques, and they would think, okay, I'm actually preparing my body, or I'm bodybuilding my body, while they're using these shapes and hand symbols that they don't even know what they mean. Just because some guy on YouTube that they don't even know, but has such a high reach and so many followers, millions of views, because these people are being pushed by the creators of YouTube, because they are also probably part of the brotherhood, and then they indoctrinate the people with these hand gestures. So then, on the other hand, once that footballer or soccer player is throwing this into the cameras, they don't even think anything deeper about this. Like, there could be nothing behind it, because in their everyday to-day life they already got accustomed with that hand gesture through some innocent bodybuilding stuff, That's just an example. This stuff occurs just as the winking with the eye is something that is promoted through the TV, especially at Christmas, where the Santa Claus is winking with the eye, and it's considered as a nice gesture, but it has fraternal meaning. It's a gesture that they use. Okay. And there are so many other examples. I'm not gonna get deeper into this. Again, all this is linked to the pyramid that can also be seen on the back of the dollar bill, because Freemasonry is running the US and Europe. Okay. That's what I can say. It's also probably running Russia, because Russia, if you know anything about Russia, for example, Alexander the Great, or what was it called? Tsar Alexander was a Mason. Stalin was also a Mason, so he was flashing the hidden hand symbol. So again, it's across the whole world by now, And it all refers to ancient Egypt, and they keep holding on to Rome, Latin language. So it always goes back to these big kingdoms, and that is why people say Babylon is on the rise, or the Tower of Babel is rising. And again, the new headquarters of Amazon, Jeff Bezos' Amazon, is actually designed after that Tower of Babel. Okay, it's the same design. It's a whirling tower that whirls into the clouds. Okay, like a skyscraper. It's the same imagery that they're using, and also, you could say, biblical reference that they are using to demonstrate what is going on and what they are doing, what they have planned, who they are, whom they worship. This goes back to Nimrod also. I mean, it's all connected, you know. I believe if you look at the history of everything, just to round this up, is that nothing really ever has changed. It's just that it looks like God has always destroyed their plans, and they always got up again, you know, creating this new world order, so to say, or creating a massive empire in this world, whether that's the Babylonians, whether that's the Egyptians, whether that's the Romans, whether that's now the Masons in disguise, you know, and we will see how they're gonna call this new world order. Actually, I don't think that they're gonna call it new world order at the end. If you say, for example, there is an empire at the end and everyone is on board with it, you know, and there are no countries anymore, it's just one empire, it would be interesting what they're gonna call it. But I don't think it's just New World Order. I mean, it's a boring name, but it stands for what it will be, because right now we have a sort of old order still, and that New World Order is on the rise, where everything will be connected through the satellites in the sky, that rich people are shooting up there and nobody says who or how or hey, and everyone's just loving everything. And yeah, it's a fake love, kind of, you know, but everybody has to figure out himself what is true, what is lies. I cannot possibly teach you, but I can hand you information that might make it easier for you to find truth and to spread truth to the people, to tell them about these things, and then yeah, you know how it is. You talk to people, you let them know, and that's all you basically can do. I mean, everyone is responsible and takes his own choices at the end. For his deeds, actions, and beliefs also.